Starting. Okay. All right, y'all. We are now live on air with YouTube, so all those who can join us will join us, and people who want to watch the archive later will have the option. And I know OP may not be joined us yet, but like I said, he can catch up with us. So I'm just going to start by just logging into CourseDen. I'm not going to get really into a lot of other tools. We'll try to dive right into discussions, but I can certainly talk about other things as you guys want me to. So what I'd like to do with these trainings that we do, when we archive all of these, at least the ones that we have people show up for, but I try to tailor them to the audience that we have. So if you have certain questions or want me to diverse, I can do that, so no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to CourseDen. And yeah, feel free to jump in if you have any questions or thoughts or just good jokes. I'm okay with that too. All right. And I'm just going to utilize my little sandbox course. It won't be as effective for the groups because I don't have any students in here, at least, well, not very many, but at least I think it'll give enough that we can show you kind of what it means and how it all works. Before I go, Jenna, do you have any things that you want me to look into as far as discussions? Do you have a certain question for me to address?
Not really. I haven't utilized them at all, so I'm just kind of interested in general overview type stuff.
How do you communicate right now with your students? What do you?
Well, all my classes are combos, so I mostly just doing in class and then talking to them, posting videos and assignments and that sort of thing. Okay. That's pretty much all I'm using D2L for in this class right now. So.
Okay. And what do you do with your videos?
It's usually just to clarify a point or to give an example of a concept, that sort of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. So we can actually use videos in discussions, and I'll show you that too. So you can do some neat stuff with videos and discussions, so that's why I ask.
Okay.
Our building is really noisy. If you're like kind of background noise, our building, I swear, is haunted. It's always like the drama of people are upstairs, so there's always some weird noises coming in and out of here. Anyway, just in case you hear the background noise. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just look at discussions. So you can get into discussions a couple different ways. So one, right across the top here in our navigation bar, you can click on discussions. Here's usually where you're going to get into the actual discussions for your grading purposes and to kind of go through and read them. Notice I have a YouTube video actually embedded in the discussion here. So you can do stuff like this. This could be a YouTube video. It could be a video that you post to kind of provoke discussion. So you could have a video that you start a discussion with and put it right in the discussion itself to kind of get them started, give them something to talk about, if you will. So that's one way to access them. And from inside of here, if you click on the drop down, you can do some different things. One, I can edit it. I can assess from right here. I can delete this topic. So I can do some stuff from here. Normally, I don't build my discussions this way. I really like the course builder. So I'm going to go up to the course builder. So I'll get into the group piece in just a few minutes, but I'll start by just doing the kind of a basic discussion and get an idea kind of what it's for. And let me know if you don't hear me or if my screen's being a little slow. The internet is being a little slow, it seems like. So hopefully we don't have any internet issues during this. But it is being a little slow. I didn't lose y'all, right? It's just CourseDen being a little slow, I think. There we go.
Here.
Okay. So I've built a few modules in here. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just put a discussion in one of my weeks. Let's see which one I want. I'll use that one. I have all my Wimba stuff in here. Let's go with this one. I'm going to get rid of my weird thing that I built earlier. So I've actually built one discussion in here, this Yay Jessica discussion from a previous thing that I was showing somebody. So that's my icon is a discussion right here. This actually is accessible. It can be assessed, so I can click on that. That little icon can show me this action. That's what that's for. Anyway, I can't seem to talk today, but I'll keep trying. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and grab a discussion and drag it over. So on this far side, I can actually grab a discussion and just click and drag. You probably already know that, but I'll go ahead and do that. I can drop it right on top of the module, or I can put it in place. So this little line means I may want this in a certain area. So maybe I'll put this right after the overview in my module. And then we give it a name. Call it Let's Talk. And discussions could be used obviously for a lot of things. They could be used and assessed for, instead of doing an assignment, a lot of times people use discussions. They could be used in a non-assessed manner just to get your students talking about a project or just to kind of ask questions. They could be used kind of like an FAQ, or instead of having them email you every time they have a question, they can just ask that in a discussion so that when you answer it once, all the students have access to the answer. So there's some good reasons to use discussions. I don't necessarily have to have a description, but you may want one here. So if I was going to embed a video or have something in my discussion to start it off, it'd be here. So I can do all that here. And if you want me to, I can walk through showing you how to do that if you like, as far as embedding videos and things if you don't already know. Is that something that you're both familiar with? Or would you like me to walk over it?
Okay, now what, embedding discussions, is that what you said?
Embedding videos in discussions or embedding things into a discussion. Is that something you'd use?
I know
or
how
you want to know?
to do that, but I don't know if Janet may want to see that.
Well, no, not the video. I know how to do that, but I was just wondering, like, for example, if I were to give them, like, an assignment, like, one of the things that's going to happen in my class is, okay, everybody read it, and then you're going to have, say, 4 people in a group are supposed to work together to do some reading comprehension questions.
Okay.
So is there a way that I could, what would be the best place to post the document they're supposed to be working off of?
You could actually post that inside of here. You can actually attach it. So you could attach it in the description up here. So there's a couple ways to do that. You can attach a file. This little insert a quick link, if I click on this, it'll allow me to access some things. One is just content. This content could be a file. So I may need to go in and
okay, so anything I've uploaded into the Courseden files, then I could get from there.
Yeah, like these are you could certainly go into that and add that. Let me see if there's a better option besides files. I think there is a course file, not content, but course file. I believe it's better off. So course file is going to go to my course management, and I can actually create a new file, or I can utilize their PDFs, Word docs. So you could actually upload that right to the discussion group.
Okay, that's a good question that Janet asked. And a follow-up question to that is, if we're going to have group discussions, something like that, do I have to make 4 different discussion boards and put that information inside each board?
I will show you that actually, because when you create a discussion for a group, it's a little bit different. So it'll actually do kind of that for you, but you wouldn't need to, because you may have, there's good reasons for separating that. Usually in a group type situation, you have group A, B, and C. They're doing that because they're doing different things in those groups. So you don't necessarily want them all to be the same by default. You want to have control over each group. So I'll show you that in just a minute. We'll get to that in just a second, because that's done a little differently. You can't actually do that right through the initial discussions. That's through the group manager.
Okay, cool.
The group tool. But yeah, you can add a lot of things. That quick link. This is not just in discussion. This is everywhere. But you can utilize a lot of pieces through here, as far as time into the discussion, so they can link to them. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
We'll link a sample PDF here. So it'll just link to it right here. And even in this, I could actually put some text. I click on this link to access your, you know what I mean? So you can just give them some information. So the other piece is if you're going to grade this, just like all the other tools, you need to either, if you've already created a gradebook column, you can just link to it, or you can create one from here. I'm going to say new grade item. And I'll name mine just the same as I did. I don't know if it likes apostrophes. We'll try it. It may not like the, yeah. We'll see if he yells at me or not. Morning, Deborah. Thanks for joining.
Morning.
We're just getting started, so we haven't missed a whole lot yet. So in my gradebook, I actually have some categories already because I'm using weighted gradebook. So because of that, I could actually go ahead and just tie this into my discussion category that I'm already using, and it will automatically do some stuff for me in the gradebook. That's more of a gradebook topic, but that's why I'm doing that. This description is only in the gradebook. This doesn't really relate to the discussion itself. This is for that gradebook column. I don't really need to put anything there necessarily. If I did, I probably want them to see it, but I could just have it just for me if I wanted to. I'm going to give it some points. So I guess 10 points is good. I'll go ahead and stick with 10 points. Again, this is weighted, so it's automatically giving it a weight based on how many discussions I have in that particular category in my gradebook. But that's more of a gradebook topic. And I'll come down and just say create. So now I've created my gradebook column. I'll go ahead and give this the same amount of points I did in my gradebook. There's some other options down here as far as when you create discussions. So allow anonymous posts. This is kind of nice. So if you want to give your students the option to basically post anonymous to each other, my understanding is this is only anonymous to students. And they used to say, and they're a little more obvious, that this was only to students. These little question marks also are pretty helpful usually to give you a better idea what that means. So it actually displays the word anonymous. I believe as an instructor you can find out who posted that, but it's still kind of an anonymous. But that's something I wouldn't necessarily say is anonymous to you, so I wouldn't use it kind of for that reason. It's more for anonymous to each other.
So this is different from the way Course Den used to be, where the instructor could not see who had made the post.
I believe that's correct. They've changed this a couple times. At one time it was anonymous to everybody, and I know at one time they actually changed it differently because I think there were some issues with some of the anonymous posts. So they made it so it was not anonymous to the instructor, and it actually said anonymous to students. They may have changed that because I know they modified the wording, but I'll be honest, I'm not positive now if that's only to the students or to you. I believe it's really just to the students. Pretty certain you or at least administrator could go in and find out who posted that, because I think there's some legal reasons why they had to do that.
Okay, thanks.
I could also hide this topic, and this seems kind of funny to create a discussion topic and then hide it, but this is really something I'd come back later and do. Actually, wait, I'm missing some spots. I'm sorry, come back up here. So if I make this anonymous, I can also say a moderator must approve, because I'm going to make something anonymous, I might want to look at it first before it just goes out to the class. So if they think I'm anonymous, I can say what I want to, and then they say something really inappropriate that probably shouldn't be stated in class. Could happen. I think it probably has, actually. That's probably why that whole discussion has happened. So you can moderate that a little bit. And this bottom one is really good too. A user must start a thread before they can read other replies. So it basically avoids the ditto effect. Students can't just go, yeah, I like what he said. So they need to actually post their response, and then they can see the others. So once they create an original, they can see the rest of the posts. So I like that, actually. That's kind of handy. There's reasons to use that. Is there any questions on those three things?
None from here.
Okay, I'll keep moving. On the restrictions, so by default the topic is always visible. That makes the most sense. You can also hide the topic, like I mentioned just barely. That's in case, usually that's done after the fact. So maybe you gave this in week 1. In week 3 your students are still going crazy on this topic, and you just want to go back in and hide that so that they're no longer still in week 1. You want them to move on. You can do that, just go back and hide that topic. You can always also make it visible just for a specific date range, so they're only utilizing it with a date range. Normally, the way I would see it is you may not want to hide it, because then they can't access it either, just to go back and review it. So it depends what you're using that discussion for. So anyway, just some thoughts as far as when you go to put that through. Making it available for a date range isn't bad either. You can at least have a start date, even if you don't have an end date. Because if you have a start date, you can then display it in the calendar. So if you're saying this discussion starts on week 3, you can go ahead and display that in the calendar. So this is not a bad option. I kind of like this because it gives them that reminder on their home page that they have something going on. They put it right on their calendar.
Question.
Yes.
If you set an end date, is it like everything else where it basically becomes invisible to them after that, or they just can't post on it anymore?
It becomes invisible because this is actually a visible for a specific date range. So okay. It's not just like a due date, it's a visible date. It'd be nice if there was another option there, but that's how it's set right now. They do some strange things. Go figure. That's why a lot of times I just do a start date and then don't have an end date. Because after you do the discussion, I'm not against them going back and rereading it and utilizing it. Oftentimes that's there for a reason. You want them to use it for review or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and say create. So this creates my first discussion. It shows my grade item, let's talk. So it shows that it's basically in the gradebook. It's not necessarily in the gradebook, but it's been given points. So that actually can throw people sometimes. I'm going to edit that so I can show you what I mean by that. I'll click that. And actually to do that from here, if I select it, on this other side I have edit discussion. If I click that, it'll allow me to edit that. But I can't necessarily do it from the drop down in the course builder. I have to click on the side. But when I add this score right here, even if I don't create a grade item in the gradebook, it appears to be being assessed. It appears to have that little icon like it's gradable, but it's not in the gradebook. So both of these are necessary. So if you want it to be gradable, you have to create this grade item, or at least come back and tie it to the gradebook later. Otherwise, it's not going to affect their grade at the end of the day, end of the semester. Sometimes that's missed a lot. So because they see the score out of, they add this, and they just don't realize we need to add that too. And that's not just new; that's in other items as well. So that's the first kind of basic creating a discussion. So does that part make sense? Any thoughts, questions, jokes? Nope. Okay. I'm going to head and look at the group part of this because it's done differently and it kind of throws people sometimes. So it's not actually done the same way. So to do that, I'm actually going to go back to my home so I can get an edit course. And I can do that easy by just clicking on this link to my sandbox again to the same title. I'll go back to kind of my home page. And I'm going to click on edit course. And down in here, hiding somewhere, is my group tool. So there we go. Under learning management, I have groups. So I'm going to go ahead and click on groups. So here is where I can create my groups, and as well as create some different things for these groups. So there's different categories here, different things you can do. So that's again one of those things I can create. So I've created, actually, you know what, I'm going to go and delete these so I can start from scratch. Delete groups and categories. I'm going to start over. So this is all fresh and clean. Give it a minute. Okay, so from a clean slate, I'm going to go ahead and say new category. And maybe this particular group is for discussions, so that's why I'll use this I'll just call this a discussion group. I could give this a description if I want to, don't necessarily have to, but I can. And then I can come down and specify the different type of group that I'm creating. So is it number of groups? How do I want to create my groups? Do I want 4 groups, or do I want groups of 4 people? Do I want them to self-enroll? So there are some options here. So this is worth looking at, making sure you kind of pick the type of group that works best for your situation. I'm going to say groups of number. I'm going to say I want a certain amount of people in each group. Well, actually in this class, because I only have a few students, I'll do it the other way. I'll say number of groups, and I'll let them self-enroll. I think that'd be all good. And notice the top one, you can do it so they can't auto-enroll. You can actually go in and you manually put people into groups. That's an option as well. And I'll say I want 4 groups. And then this down here is where I'm setting up that space. So if I want this group to have a discussion area, if I want to have a Dropbox, maybe I want to have both. Maybe I want to have these groups to have a discussion and a Dropbox. I can do that. So I'll set them up just for kicks and giggles. If you don't know what the locker is, this is kind of like a mini file manager that gives them some place to put some stuff, and you can make a locker for the group so they can share files. So we don't use that heavily because it's not really a big space, but that's what that is. And again, these question marks are your friend. So there's my basic piece. So I'm saying, actually I'll just do the discussions. I won't convolute it here with the Dropbox. So I'll set up a discussion area, and I'll say save. So first, when I do this, it's actually getting me right to my group, my discussion. So to make that, I have to first create a forum or put that discussion topic in a forum. So a discussion topic has to be in a forum. You can't just create a topic, and a forum doesn't necessarily do much for you without a topic. You need a topic. So I've created one just called general, just because in mine I don't necessarily seen a reason. I didn't see a reason to create a bunch of different forums, but you may have some reasons to do that. But I'm going to just say create and next. So that created 4 groups automatically for my different, or 4 discussion topics for my groups. And again, now I can come down and do some setting up. So my category name is discussion. It gives me a description again. I have 4 groups. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Just kind of walking through what we just did. So I'm going to save that. And now here are my discussion topics for those different groups. And these could be different. They could be titled something a little different if you wanted to. But so I'm going to say, what's the best way to do this? From in here, this is really not part of the discussion. From in here, I can then say group 1, and I can edit these groups. I can give their own descriptions. I can view the enrollment. I can enroll users. They can also self-enroll because that's what I allowed. But I can enroll users manually. And give each of these groups a separate description. I can modify their names, all of those things. So I can come and say, this group is going to work on blah, blah, blah. And again, if I click on this, I still have the same access that we did earlier as far as adding or inserting or linking to a PDF file or documents or videos or whatever you'd like to. So each of these groups are very flexible, and you can do a lot with them.
So when you manually enroll the users, it just links over to the class list and lets you select from there? Is that how that works?
I'm going to go ahead and say enroll users. So here's I don't have a lot of users in this class, but yes, it just kind of links to my class list. And let's go ahead and just say I'll put Miata in here. I could do a search for them. I could do all that. But yes, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now I have one user in that one. Let's go ahead and look at this one. Enroll users, and I'll put, say, Wendy in this one. So I can manually go ahead and add people if I want to. So it's pretty quick and simple. Did that answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's how I create these. And I should also be able to add myself. I think I can. Maybe it doesn't let me. I believe it does, but maybe I'm wrong.
And you can you put, they're not excluded. I see that you still have
Yep.
the one you selected available there, so you could put someone in every one of your groups.
Yeah, someone could be in each group. Like right now, Miata's in group 1 and group 3. So someone could be enrolled in more than one group. That's true. And there's some reasons to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where that's at. Now if I go back to discussions, it actually should show me my new discussion. So let me see if I can scroll down. I have too many here because I created a bunch. But you'll notice some of these I already did. See, it shows my group 1, 2, 3, 4 topic, group 1 topic. So some of these have... I need to clean this up. Looks like I've been playing too much in here. But here's ones I just created. So I have group 1 topic, group 2 topic. So that's why when I looked at those, it allows me to edit that title. I can modify the names of these so that they're more fitting and so they're not so confusing. I can go and quickly edit those and change them so I know more what they are when I look at the discussions themselves. I can also subscribe to these, and this is something the students can do too. So they can subscribe to certain topics. And then up here on the top, I believe it's here. It's actually here. When you subscribe, you'll get a list of these things that you subscribe to. So I haven't done any of that, but you'll actually get them popping up. You subscribe to a certain, it's kind of like subscribing to a news feed online somewhere. When someone posts, it'll show you have a new post. So it'll pop up on top saying, hey, there's something new in this particular group or this discussion that you're subscribed to. Does that make sense? So this is handy, and I know that's something that I think students would utilize as well. Or, once they understand it's there, a lot of them do, and I've seen people use that. So that's kind of nice. So there's that piece, and again, from in here, there's a couple. I think I'm kind of bouncing everywhere a little bit. I don't mean to. I'm sorry. It's been one of those weeks this week. Before I bounce off of this, does the group piece make sense? Phyllis is awful quiet, so I'll make sure I don't lose her. She might have wandered out.
I got quiet because OP came in here and started taking over.
Are you still muted?
Oh no, you're not muted now, big guy. Careful there, OP.
We do have yeah, that helps very much.
Okay.
But are you going to continue with the discussion, and we'll see if OP's question is answered, or if you want him to ask it now?
Yeah, go ahead and ask. I'd be happy to entertain him.
David, I think this is probably just because I don't remember how to do what I did, but if I do discussions, when I get ready to assess, I typically like to be able to see all the posts for an individual student at one time.
Yep.
And I don't remember where you do that.
Okay, no problem. We will show you. It's actually much easier than it used to be. When they first did this, it was really kind of a pain to grade discussions. It's still not maybe the simplest things, but they've added some stuff that made life easier. So, yeah, I'll show you that as well. So that's where I'll hop into right now, kind of the grading piece of this. if I wanted to come down here, and these drop downs can do a lot of stuff. So you can edit, you can view topics. If I come up to the very top of this, this is the actual kind of form. I can assess the topic. So this is one way to grade. I don't believe this is the easy way, and this is not what you're looking for, OP. But if I click on this, it lets me come in and I can actually grade these. There's nothing been done in here, so it's a little bit doesn't necessarily show us a lot because nobody's actually made any posts for this particular one. But this is one area to grade. What I really like, if I click on my grade book, go on grades and go to my grade book. See if I can find some that people have already posted to. I think I have some. I may have to pop into a different class that people have utilized the discussions. Let me actually do that. Let me pop into another class that I believe I have one that's we can probably show you. Let's see if I can just steal one real quick that someone's used. These are old classes. So you see this icon right here? That icon is actually, so you can click on that icon. I probably shouldn't be in this class. I think this is probably a... Yeah. But that icon of the gradebook, when you click on that icon, it'll actually show you all of the posts for that individual user. So when I come down here, I can say this user, and it shows every post and their reply. So this is what you're after, OP. Does that make sense? That's the best way, in my opinion, to grade a discussion post is right from the grade book. Click on that small little icon, come in and grade that student.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's something they added recently that didn't used to be there in the initial kind of releases of this.
They did a nice job of hiding that from me, David.
Oh, they really did.
Yeah.
That should be easier to access from the other area, but it's just not. I'm going to go back to my course so I'm not playing with somebody else's stuff here.
They designed it with OP in mind.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, D2L.
They do, exactly. Thanks a lot for that, people. But to me, that's the best way to do it. I think, hands down, it's easier than any other that I've found. If you come right in, and you'll know there's a discussion because you'll have that icon. If they haven't posted, there's no icon. So, and under that, certainly discuss things. So, like under this, you would see the icons there if they'd posted. You can also come right here and click the drop down on the actual top column and say grade all. And from here, you would actually see that icon right here. That little discussion icon would be here. You could click on it, see their posts, and then grade here. And I could do the same kind of similar thing in this manner as well. But it's much easier to grade that discussion from the gradebook instead of from the discussion link up here. Did I answer that for you, OP?
Their original post, the responses, everything, right?
Yeah, all that is in there. Yep. Anything from that one user would be right there.
Well, I know I used to do that, but last semester when I was looking, I was like, I don't know where it went, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it intuitive.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Someone drank some extra Mountain Dew that day, and they're like, "Hey, I got enough Mountain Dew. I can fix this." Sorry, just kidding. These poor guys in Mountain Dew. I used to be in IT, so I can make fun of them.
Maybe it wasn't Mountain Dew.
What's that?
Maybe it wasn't Mountain Dew.
Maybe maybe that's what did it. They're like they tried something different that day.
That good old Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Good old Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I am.
What was that? Sorry. I thought it was a start of a question. Nope. Everybody just got really quiet. Deborah, did you have anything? You've been awful quiet.
No, I'm. Oops.
Yeah, you were going. You just muted yourself now.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
No, I'm fine. Just following along.
Okay, perfect. Feel free to interject.
I will do so. Thank you.
Any questions at all, feel free to ask. Okay. So I think that covers a lot of the discussion pieces. And again, even in here, but part of this is just part of the grading, but you can still leave feedback in here. You can do a bunch of stuff from here. If I cancel this, the other option in here, depending on the view you're in, I'm in this Excel view in my gradebook. I can go back to standard view. either one, I would have those icons next to that. If they'd done any discussion post, I would see that little icon next to the in the column, so I can easily grade it from there.
So sorry, maybe you already said this, but when you're doing that grading, like if you go into grade all, it's basically the same as like in a Dropbox where you have each student, you'll put in their mark and then it gets transferred over automatically.
Yes, very similar. So from right in here, again, if I click the drop down next to that column heading, say grade all, if they'd done a discussion post, or any posts, I'd see that icon right here. I could click on it. I'd see all of their posts. I'd come in there and add the grade. And once I save that, it'd go, puts it in the grade book. Was that the question?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you certainly can do that. That's no problem.
I'm full of stupid questions today.
Hey, I like those kind. They're the best. Like they say, there's no stupid questions. But then they
just inquisitive idiots.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I didn't say it. Somebody said, "Look at all those stupid people ask." I'm like, well, that's not very nice. But, all right, perfect. So I think that covers a lot of our discussions. I'm just trying to make sure I'm covering all the stuff that needs to be covered. If you have any questions at all about the discussion or anything else, I'd be happy to entertain them. That's really your basic piece of it. So maybe some other kind of best practices as far as discussions we can talk about. Some of the way people utilize them, some of the ones I've seen best. So one best practice that I like is when you're creating up your discussion, when you set your kind of your rules for the game, if you will. The one practice I've seen that makes the most sense is, say, requiring your students to post one original post, say, by Wednesday, and then 2 responses, say, by Friday. So give them some solid dates when they need to have their post created. And if you want them to respond, if you don't, like I've also seen people say, just post sometime during the week. All of your posts need to be due. But then that actually creates an issue with other students trying to respond because nobody's done original posts yet. So if you require original posts due by, say, the middle of the week, and responses, say, due by Friday, it gives your students enough time to actually fulfill that without having to, everybody's posting to the same person that actually does their stuff early. So if you make that requirement, that seems to help a lot. So that's one good practice. Another good use of discussions, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I really, really like it, is having a discussion there just for, I want to say like an FAQ, but it's really just for that. Instead of them emailing you, if you can create this discussion saying ask your professor, so if they have those questions that aren't personal, they can put them in that discussion, and then you answer there, and if you get other emails, just say, just see the discussion. Or you can start pointing people to that, so look at this discussion, that's what it's for. It'll save you a ton of time answering emails. I know that's been one big complaint with online is you answer the same question 100 times because it's one-to-many kind of, and you're there and you talk to each individual one-on-one instead of in a classroom where it's one-to-many, where you can talk to all of them at the same time and answer one question once. Here you don't get that opportunity, but if you do it this way, you can. So I know that's been a really helpful use of discussions. Any of you have any thoughts on just good practices you'd like to share with the group? I'd love to entertain that.
I have a lot of different discussion topics maybe going, and something that works well for me is instead of doing the original posts by Wednesday and the responses by Saturday or some kind of thing, I kind of divide up so that I have people who are responsible for starting the discussion. They're responsible for the original post, and there's a date for those to be there, and then everybody has like a week after that to respond or something. But it just seems to work. I don't know that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Fine if they want, but it just sort of divides up the work.
So do you just assign those to certain people, and then take turns, kind of who gets to start the discussion?
Yeah, I do set up groups and then sort of use the groups. Actually, I use a blog tool instead of in this discussion space, but same idea. And so I assign the groups to lead the discussion on specific topics, and the other people respond.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. I like that. That makes sense. Has anybody utilized videos or other things to start their discussions?
Well, I used VoiceThread this last semester, and posted some links to articles and some pictures and things to and everybody had to start a thread, had to post a voice thread
Okay.
around the discussions. And it was just a new way to do discussions, to try to mix it up and make it a little bit different and maybe more engaging than just doing text. And it worked pretty well. I think a lot of people had never used VoiceThread, and it was just a different way of doing things. And it was easier to use pictures and YouTubes and documents and things through the VoiceThread than through the discussion board, I think. So it was just a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like that. Well, I think that covers a lot of what we'd like to cover. Again, I would love to entertain any questions, thoughts, comments, if you have those. But I think that pretty much wraps it up. The other thing I do want to point out that I want to make sure y'all know, we are always looking for feedback and looking for suggestions to improve. And if you have some other things you'd like to share with us, we'd like to do that. Earlier, I posted something to the chat window. If you see that still, I'm going to post it again in case it was added before you joined us. So I'm just going to add it one more time to the chat. That's just a link to our feedback form. So if you can go ahead and click on that and leave us some feedback, that'd be great. Trying to keep that all in par. And if you're watching us on YouTube or you watch this later on YouTube, feel free to add some feedback. And I believe that feedback form is also in the email that we send out, so please feel free to do that. With that being said, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go and stop the broadcast of this. Although, just so you all know, anybody watching, if you ever need anything with this, you know where we live. We all pretty much live here in the old auditorium. Come by and see us, and we can certainly help you with this and anything else you have questions with. So, anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and stop this broadcast.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.